We are going to talk about how to solve equations that have radicals in them. So when you solve these equations, you're going to solve them just like any other equation. You isolate your variable and simplify your answer. So if we have the square root of 3 plus x equals 2, we still want x to be by itself, which means that we have to get rid of this plus square root of 3. So we're going to subtract square root of 3 from both sides, giving us x is equal to 2 minus square root of 3. Go ahead and see if you can't figure this one out on your own. All right, well, you should have subtracted the square root of 2 from both sides. So 5 square roots of 2 minus the square root of 2 would have given you 4 square roots of 2, which is answer choice number 1. All right, let's look at this one. Y plus the square root of 8 equals 4 square roots of 2. Well, if I were to subtract the square root of 8, those radicals don't match, so I can't really combine like terms. But the square root of 8 isn't really simplified yet. We have to simplify all radicals at the start before we start solving. So let's look at this problem. 2a square root of 3 minus 4 square roots of 5 equals 6 square roots of 5. So remember, I'm trying to get a by itself. And just like any two-step equation, I'm going to get rid of the addition and subtraction first. So I need to get rid of this minus 4 square roots of 5. So I'm going to add 4 square roots of 5. So now I have 2a square root of 3 equals 6 square root of 5 plus 4 square roots of 5. So again, I added 4 square roots of 5, so that way it would go away on the left-hand side. Well, now I combine like terms. 6 square roots of 5 plus 4 square roots of 5 is 10 square roots of 5. So now I've got 2a square root of 3 equals 10 square roots of 5. And then I can divide both sides by 2, and I get a square root of 3 is equal to 5 square roots of 5. Now I'm going to divide both sides by the square root of 3, and I get a is equal to 5 square roots of 5 over the square root of 3. Unfortunately, we learned in the last section that we cannot have a radical in our denominator, which is what we have now. So we need to rationalize the denominator by multiplying by the square root of 3 and the denominator and the numerator. So 5 times the square root of 5 times the square root of 3 is equal to 5 square root of 15. And the square root of 3 times the square root of 3 is 3. So my final answer after everything is simplified is 5 square root of 15 over 3. All right, let's look at this one. 7x square root of 2 plus 6 square root of 11 equals 5 square root of 44. So this is one where we need to simplify first before we start solving. And when I say simplify, I'm looking at this number here, the square root of 44. The square root of 44 can be broken down into 4 and 11. And if I break it down to a 4 and 11, that's the square root of 4 times the square root of 11. And the square root of 4 is 2. So now I've got 5 times 2 square root of 11, which is 10 square roots of 11. So now I'm here. 7x square root of 2 plus 6 square roots of 11 equals 10 square roots of 11. So now I'm going to solve for x. The first thing I take care of this plus 6 square root of 11 by subtracting 6 square root of 11. So now I've got 7x square root of 2 equals 10 square roots of 11 minus 6 square roots of 11. And that gives me 7x square root of 2 equals 4 square roots of 11 because 10 minus 6 is 4. Now, my last step is to divide both sides by 7 and the square root of 2. So now I get 4 square roots of 11 over 7 square roots of 2. But we learned in the last section that we cannot have a radical in our denominator, so we have to multiply both the numerator and the denominator by the square root of 2. So 4 times the square root of 11 times the square root of 2 is equal to 4 square root of 22. And then 7 square root of 2 times the square root of 2. Well, the square root of 2 times the square root of 2 is just 2. So now we've got 7 times 2. And 7 times 2 is 14. So now I've got 4 square root of 22 over 14, which simplifies to 2 over 7. So I've got 2 square root of 22 over 7 as my final answer. All right, let's look at this one. Go ahead and see if you can't figure out the answer for this one. So the first thing you should have done is you should have noticed that minus square root of 20 really breaks down to minus the square root of 4 times 5. So the square root of 4 is 2, so it's minus 2 square roots of 5. So you're going to add 2 square roots of 5 to both sides. So you would get x square root of 5 equals 6 square roots of 5. And so then you divide both sides by the square root of 5. And so you get your final answer of 6 because the square root of 5s will cancel out. So that's answer choice number 2. All right, let's try this one. All right, you should have gotten number 2 if you simplified correctly. All right, let's look at this problem. X square root of 8 plus 3x square root of 2 equals 10. So before we even begin, I need to take care of the square root of 8 because that's not simplified because the square root of 8 can break down to 4 times 2, which breaks down to the square root of 4 times the square root of 2. Well, the square root of 4 is really 2. So now I've got 2x square root of 2 plus 3x square root of 2 equals 10. Well, 2x plus 3x is 5x. So now I've got 5x square root of 2 equals 10. And if I divide both sides by 5 square root of 2, then I get 10 over 5 square roots of 2. And then 5 goes into 10 twice, leaving me 2 over the square root of 2, but then I have to rationalize my denominator by multiplying the numerator and the denominator by the square root of 2, and then I get 2 times the square root of 2 is 2, and the square root of 2 times the square root of 2 is 2. So now I've got 2 square roots of 2 over 2, which simplifies to just the square root of 2. All right, let's look at this. A square root of 2 plus 5a equals 3. This is a problem where you would want to factor the a out first. So if you factor out the a, you would get a square root of 2 plus 5 equals 3. And so all you have to do is divide the square root of 2 plus 5. And like in this case, you notice how there's an a on this side and an a on that side. That doesn't work either. You have to get all your variables to one side before you try to solve. Just like when you were solving in Algebra 1. You wanted all your variables on the same side. All right, your turn. You're going to try 7.6, 2 through 6 evens.